Ever since I first started playing Minecraft, I have been fascinated with hardcore mode. I didn't always have hardcore mode, right? Like when I was a very, very young kid, when I first started playing, I was on the Xbox 360, and you didn't have hardcore. But I would watch these YouTubers and I would read these stories of people with these amazing hardcore worlds, and it just like blew my mind and it grabbed me. When I finally got a computer, when I was a young man, a teenager, and I bought Minecraft Java Edition, I immediately started a hardcore world and immediately died, of course, but I didn't really care. I was just so enamored. It was fascinating being able to go into a world, a massive sandbox like Minecraft, and not know if you were going to live 20 minutes or 20 days or a longer time. I almost said 20 years, but that's unreasonable. But ever since then, I have played almost exclusively hardcore mode. Every now and then, I would do survival servers with my friends and stuff, but for the most part, I really did just play hardcore. It was by far the most interesting way for me to play Minecraft. And I had never really thought about why that was the case. For most of the time, it was just like, I like to play hardcore. But a couple months ago, I was thinking about some stuff, and I had this realization that I didn't always be I wasn't always like that. I didn't always think like that. One of my favorite games of all time is this game called Skyrim. You probably know about it. It's, one of the most popular games in history. But I would remember all these times as a kid where I would sit there for hours reloading saves to try to get a certain super specific outcome. Maybe it was I don't know, maybe I was trying to forge something and I needed it to be really good. Or maybe I was talking with someone and I needed to persuade them to do something or something, right? And I would I would spend so much time reloading game saves to get specific outcomes. And I remember there's this big one. There was a certain enemy, one of the dragon priests, that was really, really tough for me to kill. I basically couldn't do it. And instead of getting better gear or getting better at the game or just learning how to counter him, I would just reload the save. And every time that I would lose, every time I would die, I would just spawn right back in at the beginning, and I could go and fight him again anew. And I never got better, right? I never had more success in that fight. But eventually, after enough brute forcing, I was finally able to kill him. And I didn't even deserve it. I hadn't done anything to warrant success in that fight. I had just reloaded the save enough times, and I had brute forced my way to success. And as a kid, I would do that kind of stuff, and after I would do it, I would always lose interest. And I was never sure why that was the case. I was never sure why I was losing interest in the game after I would brute force my way to success, but it would happen. And every time that it would happen, I would either start a new character, or I would drop the items or the loot that I had gotten and just give them up. But it was every time that happened, it was the exact same outcome. I just lost interest in playing because it didn't feel like I had earned the right to be successful. So when I got Minecraft Java Edition and I started playing hardcore mode, I didn't notice it at the time, but I was just fascinated with the game and I absolutely loved it. I played so much Minecraft. It was crazy. It was a whole summer that I basically did nothing but I'd go to work. I worked at this little grocery store, and then I would come home and I would play Minecraft. And the first world that I started, I died immediately, and the second one I lasted a little bit longer. And every time I would die in a world, I would learn from my mistakes, and I would use what I had learned to figure out how to avoid making those same mistakes the next time. And I was thinking about that just recently because, actually not even for any particular reason. I don't have some like crazy sob story. I was just thinking about, those fond times that I had as a kid and trying to glean a little bit of insight about myself from those experiences. And I was talking with a friend of mine about playing Minecraft hardcore mode, and he was telling me, "Oh no, you're totally wrong. Like, all the added stress of playing hardcore and dying, it's all terrible. And Minecraft is meant to be this nice, peaceful game." And I just think that's totally wrong. Obviously, it's your game. Play the game however you desire. If you want to play hardcore, play hardcore. If you don't want to play hardcore, you don't have to. Don't take this as me telling you that like you've got to do something. Just do whatever you want. But if you've never tried playing Minecraft hardcore mode before, I really would challenge you to give it a try. Just try it out. Because I think that you will find, and this has been my experience with most people, is that most people actually tend to like it a lot more than they think they do. There is the added stress, right? The added stress of dying. And if you're watching this and you're like, what is Minecraft hardcore mode? Basically, hardcore mode in Minecraft is this mode you can select for your world, and it locks your world into the highest level of difficulty in the game. Additionally, this is a big village house, wow. Additionally, it also makes it so that if you ever die in your world, it's just over. There's nothing you can do. And it kind of became more popular when people started like making YouTube videos about it and streaming it and stuff. But I have been doing it for years, and it's my personal favorite way to play the game. When you play normal Minecraft, you kind of instinctively operate with this understanding that everything is going to happen. You're beating the Ender Dragon, and it's like, it's not a question of are you going to beat the Ender Dragon, it's just how many tries is it going to take you to beat the Ender Dragon. When you're playing normal Minecraft, anything that you want to have happen will eventually happen, regardless of how much you try or how good you are at the game. You just have to do it enough times, and eventually you will get the right outcome. We know this because statistically, if something can happen and you do it an infinite number of times, statistically it will happen. And so, you're playing the game and you want to go beat the Ender Dragon. Well, if you're just playing normal Minecraft, there's definitely some interest in beating the Ender Dragon, and there's some excitement. But for me, the excitement is lost when I think about it and I realize that it's going to happen at some point, regardless of what I do, regardless of how good I am at the game or how skilled I am or anything. At some point, the Ender Dragon is going to die, and I just have to throw myself at it enough times to get that to happen. But when you're playing in a hardcore world, fighting the Ender Dragon becomes something that can literally stop your world. It can end it. And that fight goes from being an eventual certainty to being an uncertainty. If you're very good at the game, maybe you're very confident and you can just beat the Ender Dragon, and that's fine. But if you're like me, I've never been immensely good at this game. Yeah, I'm not bad, but I'm not like some PvP legend or anything. But if you're like me, it means that every time you fight the Ender Dragon in a new hardcore world, it's like an actual risk that you're taking. You're actually putting something on the line. You've built up this world, maybe just for a few hours, but maybe this has been something that you've been playing for weeks or for months. And you're now putting that on the line. You're risking that because you want to progress. Beating the Ender Dragon is an important part of the game. And in a hardcore world, it becomes this like big pivotal moment where you are unsure if you're going to live or die. And I think that that is just an exciting way to play the game personally. I remember the first time that I beat the Ender Dragon in a hardcore world, totally legitimately, and it was exhilarating. I was so excited. It was the craziest thing ever, because up until that point, I had only ever beat it in normal survivor worlds. And almost every single time, I had died at least one time. And every time I would die, I would just, go back in. I had placed my bed right outside of the end portal, and I could just start from scratch. I could go pick up my loot, and I could put on my armor. I could build back up to the towers, and I could just keep working. But when I played hardcore mode, I remember the first time that I went in to fight the Ender Dragon, and I died. It was like immediate. It was immediate death. And most people would look at that and be like, oh, weren't you bummed out that, like, you died? And to be honest, I wasn't really. Obviously, I would have preferred to have lived. That would have been preferable, but I wasn't really bummed out or anything because I knew the stakes going in. I understood the risk that I was taking when I went there. I purposefully took extra time to go and prepare myself to get the best gear that I possibly could. And that first time, I cut a few corners. Things that I didn't really think were going to matter. I didn't have potions, I only had like protection 2 on my armor, and I didn't have enchantments on my weapons. Because I didn't really think that it was going to be that bad. Obviously, based off the fact that I told you I died, it was bad. It was actually exactly that bad. I died basically immediately. The dragon spat his little dragon ball on the ground and then knocked me up in the air about 200 blocks, and because I didn't prepare myself with a water bucket or slow falling potions or anything, I hit the ground at Mach 10 and splattered everywhere, and that was it. That was the end of my world. And I had spent like 2 or 3 months playing this world basically every day. I had probably put in dozens of hours, and it was just gone, just like that. There was no more to do. But it wasn't like, I don't know, it didn't make me sad, that experience. If anything, it made me feel more excited. It made me feel more alive because I had taken that risk. And yes, it hadn't paid off and I had done something wrong, but I had learned something. And at the end of the day, I had taken what I learned and I used it to improve. I used it to get better. Even small decisions become exhilarating when you're playing hardcore. Just a few days ago, I recorded a video where I was just sort of playing around in a hardcore world, and after I turned off the video and I posted it, I logged back into the world just to explore a bit. And almost immediately, I found a zombie that was carrying a spear, and I thought to myself, I can beat it. Not knowing how that interaction worked or the massive range of the spear, I immediately died. And it wasn't sad. Like, I wasn't sad about it. It was just like, that's life, You go into some interaction, and of course, if you underestimate an interaction, chances are it's probably not going to end up super well, and that's fine. Like, there's no downside there. Of course, I lost a bit of progress, and that definitely sucked, but it wasn't that bad. Like, it didn't really matter at the end of the day. I knew that I could just hop back into another world, and I could just keep playing the game, and that nothing was actually going to happen, and that was okay. I also think that, maybe this is a bit of a hot take, but I think that Minecraft has gone in the direction of largely removing a lot of the fears of playing the game. And I don't mean that Minecraft is meant to be some, like, horror game or something crazy like that, because it's not, obviously. But I do think that they've taken away a lot of the things that used to be scary and have kind of trivialized a lot of them. And I totally understand why they've done it, It makes sense from a from a broad audience point of view, it's the most popular game in history, and you want to make sure that you're catering to as many people as possible. But there's just something exciting about feeling genuine fear while you're playing a game. Going down a cave and you see some diamonds, and you can't just run over and grab them. You have to actually take a second and evaluate your surroundings, figure out what's going on, figure out if you're in danger of dying anytime soon. And if you are, like, you have to reevaluate. You have to take a step back and maybe even have to give up those diamonds for the time being because you don't have the resources to be able to go and collect them. And that's exciting to me, you know? Having to make those choices and having to feel that genuine fear is exciting. And it really augments the game in a very interesting way that I think makes the game infinitely more engaging. Every interaction with your world becomes a question of whether or not you're prepared, essentially. And even if you are prepared, you know, accidents can happen, things can happen, you can make mistakes, you can get caught in the wrong spot and die. And in normal Minecraft, I feel like all of those fears are just sort of quelled by the fact that there's no downside to dying. Maybe you lose some gear, and that sucks, obviously, if you can't get back there in time. But outside of that, like, there's no long-term punishment, nothing bad actually happens. You just go back in, respawn at your spawn point, and you're back in the game. And I think that that's not like an incorrect way of playing the game, but I think that it definitely takes away a lot of the excitement, you know? When you're playing hardcore and you have those actual fears that you have to deal with, every interaction that you come out of successfully feels like a massive victory. Even something as simple as just going down and mining for some resources feels like a victory. Way more so than just playing the game normally, because when you're playing the game normally, you know, if you're down in the mines and something happens, you just respawn and go back down there. But in hardcore, even just gathering resources, even just building a little farm, even just building a house or something like that becomes something that is risky. It becomes something that is difficult. And there are actual risks associated with taking those actions. And it makes the victories feel that much more earned. Kind of going back to what I said about the Ender Dragon fight. In normal Minecraft, beating the Ender Dragon is a question of when, not if. And yes, most people, when they beat the Ender Dragon in Minecraft, they feel accomplished. They feel like they've earned it. But think about it for a moment. If something is guaranteed to happen eventually, can you ever really earn it? My answer is no, personally. And that's part of why I like playing hardcore. Fighting the Ender Dragon becomes a thing that you genuinely earn. And you walk away from that interaction knowing that you have earned it. And knowing that you've done the hard work. Okay, that sucks. I shouldn't have put that on. But you walk away from that interaction. Oh, that's actually really bad. Okay. I think I've messed up. You know, that's another great part about playing hardcore Minecraft, is that sometimes you put a cursive binding legging on yourself, and now I'm gonna have to go and take a bunch of damage to try to break it. That's not scripted, actually. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Back to the Ender Dragon thing. Like, you beat the Ender Dragon, and you get to go to the end cities and explore, and the end cities become things that are, like, actually terrifying for you. It's not just, oh, I hope I don't fall into the void and lose my gear. Any mistake that you make becomes a significant and genuine issue. Any mistake that you make kills you. And playing the game with that framing in mind makes the game that much more exciting. I also remember the vast majority of hardcore worlds that I have played on, ask yourself if you can remember most of your normal worlds. You might have a few, like a handful, that are particularly meaningful to you, but I remember most of my hardcore worlds because they were crazy experiences. Having those stakes that were so high made it so that every interaction became very serious. I'm gonna die to this spider, aren't I? No, I'm fine. Everything's fine. Even just this interaction with this spider, normally I wouldn't care. But because it's hardcore, like, if I died there, my world's just over. And I haven't made a lot of progress yet. I've only been playing for about 20 minutes, but still, if I die there, like, it's just over. And so that interaction became that much more meaningful as a result of the fact that there was meaning. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll go and if I die, I'll just respawn and come back. It's, you're actually playing this game in this world. It's very dark here. I'm gonna make a torch so you guys can see. This is for your sake. Like I said, though, I remember the vast majority of hardcore worlds that I've played because the stakes were so high. Every time that I would make a mistake, I would lose actual days or weeks or months of progress. And the first couple times it stung, but every time after that, it just became this like amazing experience where I would remember my death and I would remember the world that I had. And I was excited to die sometimes because it just meant it was like such a great story. I also think that hardcore forces you to interact with game mechanics that you otherwise wouldn't. Think things like totems, for example. And totems are like the classic example for hardcore worlds because they stop you from dying, right? But I also think that playing on hardcore really forces the whole like enchantments on your armor and all your weapons and actually using a shield and enchanting your shield and thinking through interactions before you go into them, not just jumping down a hole and stabbing things to death with your sword, but actually going into that interaction and having to think about things. Having to think, okay, should I use potions in this interaction? I'm probably going to need, damage resistance potions. Should I have those? And actually having to craft those potions. I also think things like food management become way more important in hardcore because in a normal world, if you run out of food, if you get all hungry, you can't die as a result. But if I lose all my food and I'm running around and I start starving to death, like, I'm just dead, right? My hearts can go to 0 and I can die as a result of that. And then the last thing I think is also escape routes are a big one that I have noticed playing hardcore. When I play normal Minecraft, I am almost never thinking about escape routes. I drop down into a cave or I jump somewhere and I just go in knowing that the worst thing that can happen is that I lose my gear. But in hardcore, I have to purposefully set up escape routes for myself so that if something bad happens, I have a way to get out. And I think that also makes the game feel that much more exciting. It makes it feel that much more strategic, and you actually have to think about things like that. I'm gonna make a pickaxe real quick. I'm also thinking about the fact that I put on these cursive binding leggings, and I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do about that because that really wasn't intentional. and now they're kind of just stuck on me. I think I can break them, but I think it's going to be a long time. Like, if I take some fall damage... Do they not break from fall damage? Ooh, we're taking a little detour real quick. Okay, maybe they can't break from fall damage. I'll find a zombie to hit me. And I think the biggest thing about hardcore is that the story writes itself in a much more interesting way. The nature of hardcore is that it is a story with actual tension. There's action, there's close calls, and eventually there is an ending. And normal Minecraft doesn't have that last part. Most people don't think about the ending of a story, but imagine, if you like Harry Potter, imagine if they made the Harry Potter books and movies and they just like never made the last one and they left it on a cliffhanger like that. There was never any resolution. It was only ever story. And I think that would make the story worse. I think part of the excitement of a story is that there is a resolution in the end. And granted, that resolution might not come for a very long time, and you might stop playing the world, and so the resolution might not ever come. But stories are always better when there's a possibility of a resolution. If you go into a story and you're reading a book, and you know that at no point will the book ever end, it's not exciting because it's like they can just say whatever they want to keep the book going, and there's no actual stakes, right? It doesn't end at all. It just keeps going forever. But going into that book, getting halfway through and knowing that you're halfway through, knowing that no matter what, the story is going to resolve, I think is just a way more exciting way to enjoy media. Okay, I am going to go find a little zombie to hit me, I think. But I don't know, if you've never played Minecraft hardcore mode, I would encourage you to do so. I think worst case scenario, you end up not liking it and you just choose not to play it anymore, and that's fine. But best case scenario, maybe you find your new favorite way of playing the game. Minecraft is such an exciting, interesting game, but in my opinion, it can get a little repetitive when there's no ending. But knowing that at some point your world will end makes the game more exciting for me. I would encourage you to branch out and allow yourself to try something that you maybe never have. You might enjoy it. You're also welcome to play with friends, if that makes the experience more palatable. This looks like a good spot for a house. If that makes the experience more palatable, play with friends and play with them. One thing I will say, though, is if you're playing with friends, a lesson that I've learned is set a rule amongst your friends that if any of you die, you all die. And like you just have to start anew. Because I have played worlds before where a person died and then other people were like, well, we're just going to keep playing. And that's not fun. Obviously, no one likes that. So if any of you die, just all of you stop playing and find a new world. But do that, play the game and operate under the expectation. Yes, that's the word. Operate under the expectation that you're probably going to die. And just be okay with that. It's not that bad. At the end of the day, if you die, you die, and that's life. But every time that you play, you'll get better and better, and eventually you'll get to the point where you're pretty good at the game, and dying kind of becomes not that much of a concern for you anymore. And when that happens, the game becomes way more exciting and way more interesting. And eventually, you will die. Actually, not even eventually. You will die a lot. Especially early on. You will die many, many, many times. And it will be demoralizing for most of you, as it was for me. But, like I said, you just keep at it, and you keep playing, and eventually you get to the point where you learn enough that the little mistakes don't really affect you as much, and you learn, you learn how to play the game, and you learn how to get better at the game, and those stakes, they never go away. In fact, I'd actually say that they get bigger every time, but as you play the game and you build more stuff and you do more things, you will develop a deeper appreciation for the world that you've built, because you will know that you built that world knowing that at any moment you could die, knowing that at any moment you could just sort of be done, and that would be your world. That would be the end of your story, and that's exciting. There's something exciting about knowing that you can die. Every build that you make and every interaction you have with the world becomes that much more exciting. And I promise you, it's a big promise, but I promise you that you will have more fun doing it that way. If you play the game like that, you will have more fun. It will be more engaging for you. And maybe I shouldn't make that promise because it's entirely subjective, but I'm making it anyway. Just try it out. That's all I'm asking. And let me know. Let me know what you think about it. If you end up liking hardcore, please let me know, because I actually do love it when people are like, dude, you told me to play hardcore mode and it was awesome. That feels great to me. It's something I advocate for in all of my friend groups very, very aggressively. And I've converted a few people, but not everyone wants to play hardcore, and that's also okay. But just, think about your favorite Minecraft memory. It probably wasn't like something that had no stakes. That's what I'll say. It was probably not something that had no stakes. And even though Minecraft is a sandbox game, it is a sandbox survival game. The survival being an important part of that. And I think that playing the game normally takes away the survival aspect that makes so many people so fond of the game. So play hardcore. The last thing I'm going to do before I end this video, because it's been like 30 minutes, I feel like that's pretty good. And I also have said everything that I have to say on the matter, is I do want to find a zombie or something similar and get them to punch me. Oh, I wonder. Okay, I have a genius idea maybe. I don't know if this works, but I also don't actually know how cursive binding works. I don't know if it works in the sense that like it just makes you unable to. Surely does make the armor unable to take damage. I feel like that'd be a stupid way of doing that. Yeah, because that would totally trivialize the purpose of mending. Oh, it's so dark over here. Let me just find a zombie. Is that a zombie? No, those are saplings I planted. Come on. But if I can get like a zombie to punch me, or if my current idea, which is standing on this magma block, if I can stand on this magma block. Oh, hello. Actually, this is a bad idea because he's gonna kill the crap out of me, isn't he? Oh, he's totally gonna kill me. Yes, yes, he is indeed. Okay, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew. I think I've made a grave mistake. Okay, that was bad. That was bad. Ignore that entire interaction and pretend that I was really, really good at the game there. What does it look like? Okay, it can take damage. That's good. Well, to show you how much I love Minecraft hardcore, I'm going to play this one. I'm going to play this world out if I continue to live. And as I continue to live, I'll make more videos. But I really would encourage you to just give hardcore mode a try and let me know if you like it. And if you don't, also let me know,